They're easy to play, they're easy to paint, and as far as Warhammer goes, they're pretty cheap to collect. Those beautiful banana boys of the Adeptus Custodes just might be the best Warhammer army for beginners, so long as you love gold. Lots and lots of gold. My name's Nick, this is Miniature Death, and let's speed paint some glorious, golden... This is a solitary custodian guard for the Adeptus Custodes, the shiniest and most elite army in all of Warhammer. Now, Custodes aren't really like other factions. They don't really have basic troops, or at least their basic troops are as powerful as some other armies' characters. A typical Custodes army might only have 20 or 30 models, and best of all, their combat patrol is a bit of a bargain. One of these boxes contains all of their most popular units, and depending on how you build it, it adds up to about 900 points. So, buy 2 of them, chuck in a few Sisters of Silence or those floaty little bike boys, and you've got a 2k army in no time. All for about 200 quid, or whatever that adds up to in freedom bucks. And if you're quick about it, you could get your army on the table in like a weekend. So let's get cracking. Before we prime and paint our model, a quick note on sub-assemblies. You can just glue everything together and not really worry about it. However, I recommend leaving any shield arms separate, because they're a bit tricky to get your brush behind. Just get a paper clip and some blue tack to hold it in place. I also like to leave the shoulder pads blue tacked on, so you can easily whip them off if they get in the way. Okay, next step, priming. Do not prime your model in Retributor Armor Spray, or any other metallic spray for that matter. A lot of channels that are bigger and better than me will tell you to, but honestly, it's not worth the risk. Every single day on Reddit and Discord, there's someone asking why their gold primer has gone all fuzzy and weird. This spray is just really temperamental. So instead of ruining your first model, just prime your model black, grab a nice big brush, and do the gold by hand. It's quick and easy to do, and also teaches you the basics of base coating. I'm using Dragon's Gold for this, but really, any gold will do. You just need to add a tiny bit of water to keep it nice and thin, and slowly cover almost all of the model, avoiding any bits that you definitely don't want gold, like his helmet plumes, but don't worry if you catch them, we're going to be covering them up later. And when you've done your first coat, it'll look a little bit like this. A bit naff, right? A bit patchy, lots of black still showing through, but that's okay. This is better than having big thick globs of paint covering up all that lovely detail. All you need to do is add another thin coat, and soon it'll be looking nice and smooth and gleaming. Lovely stuff. Next up, let's add a healthy coat of any flesh coloured wash. I'm using the aptly named Flesh Wash. Make sure you get your wash into all the nooks and crannies and don't leave any surfaces uncovered. And once you've done an area, try not to go back to it. If there's any major pooling, you can soak it up with a clean brush, but generally, washes are best left alone. Once it's dry, it should look like this. Warm and almost brassy. For the final step on the armour, let's whip out a big stiff brush and gently dry brush some silver. Literally any silver will do, so long as it's lighter than the gold. This will catch all of the edges and leave a nice, fuzzy highlight, which saves you doing it all by hand. And once that's done, hey presto! Once again, we've done about 90% of the model in about 10 minutes. Next, it's time to add a little colour to our custodian. I'm going to go for the classic red box art, but you can really choose any bold colour you like. We just want to get a smooth, thin coat of red all over his helmet plumes, the handle of his staff, which is called a vexilla if you're feeling nerdy, these saucy little crotch tassels, and don't forget to get them from the back as well. You can also fill in the flat panels on his left shoulder pad. It can be a bit tricky trying to dodge all of the metal decorative textures, but don't sweat it too much. If you do catch any of the raised surfaces, you can just tidy them up again with silver. And here's how everything looks after a couple of coats. Nice and smooth. Next up, we're going to go back to our silver and pick out some more metallic details. All that gold can look a bit much if it's not broken up, so I like to paint in these tubes on his chest, his little face mask, these dinner plate looking things, whatever they are, and most importantly, the wings of his vexilla. As one of the most prominent parts of the model, we want them to look super shiny and bright. Plus, paint all the little chains and bits that haven't been filled in yet. And don't forget to do the same on the wings on his shield as well. And if you want, you can also pop off his little shoulder pad and paint these vents on the back silver. And that's all the silver done. But while the shoulder pad is off, let's grab a nice warm brown, I'm using Bugman's Glow, and slap some over his glove. Obviously he's got another glove on his shield arm, but because it's behind a shield, you probably won't see it, so I'm just not going to paint it. Okay, almost there with all the detail. Let's grab a black and start filling in all these little pipes. And don't forget the weird rubber banding stuff at the back of his trousers. Simple. And once that's done, it's time for another wash. This time we're going to use Nuln Oil to darken down all that silver, red and black. Nothing fancy, just lay it on smooth and then leave it to dry for about 20 minutes. And then while you're waiting, could you do me a favour? If you're enjoying the video, pop us a like and then write literally anything in the comments of this video. It could be a question about Custodes, it could be an insult telling me how ugly I am. I just want to trick the algorithm into thinking that I'm more popular than I am. And if you're really loving the video, why not subscribe? I really appreciate it. We're nearing the finish line here, and not including any drying time, I've been painting for about half an hour. I've only been using basic techniques like base coats, washes and dry brushing. Now it's time to block in one final detail, the banner and fur tail tassel thing. Covering up black with a lighter colour does take a bit of patience. After one coat it's going to look really terrible like this. But please resist the urge to slap on thick, undiluted paint. Keep going with consistent, thin layers, and after 2 or maybe 3 passes, it should look a little bit more like this. Good enough for one final wash. Now I'm using a very thinned down Space Wolf's Grey to add a little bit of a cold blue tone and a bit of Nuln Oil on the tail. Now this golden banana boy is looking absolutely fantastic, and it's taken barely any time and 0 talent. Now, if you want to push things a little further, let's try some simple highlights to bring back a bit of brightness. We start out with just a gentle dry brush of the same Mephiston red on the Vexilla shaft and his little crotch danglers. But where we really want to focus our attention is his helmet. All I'm doing is applying a thin line of Mephiston red using the shoulder of my brush to catch the most prominent strands of hair. After that, I'll introduce another layer of Demon Red in the same way. And then to finish, let's add a final highlight of Troll Slayer Orange, or again, any orange, onto the highest and sharpest points. And voila! One lovely looking helmet. Now, you could do the same on his little leather tassels, but the shield will be in the way most of the time, so I'm just not bothering. And for the penultimate highlight, let's dry brush on some even brighter silver than our original base coat. Just a light pass over the wings, and the most upward facing surfaces makes things look razor sharp. Now, the final thing to try are all those gemstones. There's a fancy way of doing it, and there's a simple way of doing it. Let's try the fancy way first. Start off laying down a base coat of black across the whole gem. Next, let's add a little blue into our black and start painting a sort of crescent moon shape across the lower bottom left of the gem. Then start adding white until you're adding just a sliver of bright colour at the very edge. Now I've done this quite messily if I'm being honest, but when you add just a simple dot of pure gleaming white to the top of the gem, it really ties everything together. Now I spent about 5 minutes on that for some pretty punchy results. But considering Custodes have about 5 billion gems on every single model, let's look at the simpler version. Start off adding a base coat of pure white each one, being nice and careful, and let's pop some in his eyes too for good measure. And then we just add a light wash of blue, or green, or red, or whatever colour you've chosen. And then once that's dry, to sell the effect, you can add the same little white dot on the corner of each gem. All our custodian needs now is a base. Slap on a thick layer of texture paste like Astrogranite. Just be careful when you get near his boots. And once there's a good coat, sort of stab and rough it up to leave more texture and leave that to dry. To accentuate all that texture, we can add a thin wash of Agrax Earthshade, wait a little bit longer, and then get our old friend the dry brush out one last time. Slap on some grass tufts, and finally, my favourite part, the rimming. A black one in this case. So, are Custodes really the best army for beginners? The best army for you is always going to be the one that you find the coolest. Except for the Tau. Don't choose the Tau as your first army. I'm not saying this because I hate the Tau, or I'm one of those freaks who say that they're not cool. I spent about a year not understanding the melee phase, so not really ideal for beginners. If you're looking for an army that's super forgiving on the tabletop, you're really tough to kill, and it's not going to break the bank getting a 2k army, then the Adeptus Custodes might be for you, if you don't mind being an Imperium bootlicker. My name's Nick, this is Miniature Death, Thanks for watching and subscribing, and let's take a look at the final result.